Hello.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'd like to sincerely apologize that we're starting a bit late. We encountered some technical difficulty, and as such, the chair is not able to log in, but I'll be standing in briefly for her until when she's able to join. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome us this morning to our very first network and knowledge sharing session. And the theme for this program is value proposition for a functional board for startup. Why is this topic, why is this theme, why is it relevant? Why should we be looking at it even at this point in time? We know all that has been going on all over the world. We know what is happening with our economy. And we know that startup SMEs are really at the backbone of our economy. And so if we must build right, if we must correct whatever is going wrong in our economy, then it's important that we take a look at how our startups are being organized, how are startups being created in this country, how are startups really impacting the economy? What is the role of having a board, a functional board? Why is it important? Because when a startup has a functional board, then there's room or there's the possibility for guardians, for expertise, networking, available resources, strategizing, providing direction for the company. And so this morning, even as we prepare to listen to our theme of experts, we will be taking us through the topic, dissecting it, sharing from their wealth of experience. Because these are not just people who will just be giving us information. They are practitioners, they are captain of industries, people who have tested the waters, people who sit on many board of many companies, and have seen what they'll be teaching us, what they'll be saying to us this morning. They've seen it play out. They've seen our strategies have been able to drive companies from idea to just become large-scale companies that are thriving in terms of revenue, in terms of number of customers, in terms of just really the longevity of these companies, companies that have stood the test of time. So without much ado, I just want to encourage each and every one of us to feel very much at home, to relax, to get ready to just really listen and learn. I want to welcome all our members. I want to welcome our president and the governing council. I want to welcome members of the CIoD. I want to welcome members of the YDF. Thank you so much. At this point, I'm going to be introducing to you our president of the Chartered Institute of Directors and the chairman of council, Dr. Alhaji Tijani Borodo, LMM FCIOD, president of CIoD Nigeria, to give us his opening address. I'll yield the floor to the president. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Ayo. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, sir.
Thank you. Ayo. Thank you for introducing me and standing in for Shade. You gave me a doctorate. I'm not a doctor, but I claim it. Eh?
Yes,
I claim it. If you are giving me a doctorate, I claim it. Okay?
yes, sir. You deserve it and more, sir.
You are muted.
Hello, sir. Alhaji. Alhaji, you're muted, sir. Do we still have Alhaji?
Yes, Ayo is here, but I think it's muted. I don't know if it's in the office. Maybe somebody could assist.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
You can see me, you can hear me?
Yes, we can. I can.
Okay.
I can hear you,
Well,
I can see.
My apologies. Shade is not on yet. You are standing in for her. I started speaking, I got muted. So technology for us. So let me go about my opening remarks. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
We can hear you, Alhaji. Thank you.
Okay, our distinguished guest speaker, Mr. Shushan Shobowale, MCIoD, General Counsel, Union Bank, PLC. Admirable discussants, Mr. Ayokule, MCIoD, Group Company Secretary, CFA, PLC. Mrs. Yemi Afar Yogun, MCIoD, Managing Director, RY Project Solutions Limited. Fola Shade, Chairman, Young Directors Forum, members of the Governing Council and Executive Committee of CIoD Nigeria, fellows and members of the Institute, members of the Young Directors Forum, our valued guests, associates, and sponsors, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. The startup ecosystem is a dynamic and vibrant landscape. It is the crucible where ideas are forged into businesses and where passions fuel the pursuit of groundbreaking solutions. But even the most brilliant idea needs the right fuel to ignite and grow. That is where a well-functioning board of directors comes in. It is a vital spark that can propel a startup from the early stages of exploration to the heights of success. Ladies and gentlemen, I have heard some argue that a fledgling startup doesn't necessarily need a formal board structure. They say, let's focus on building the products, securing funding, and getting to market first. While the initial stages are undeniably crucial, the reality is that a strong board can be the difference between fleeting sparks and a sustainable fire. A startup's founder are often deeply passionate about their products or services. They understand the technology intimately and possesses the vision that drives the company forward. However, the road from vision to reality is rarely a straight line. A diverse board comprised of individuals with experience across various domains, finance, marketing, legal, sales, technology, or even relevant industry expertise can provide invaluable strategic guidance. These seasoned directors can offer fresh perspectives, help navigate potential pitfalls, and assist in crafting a roadmap for sustainable growth. The early stages of any startup can be a whirlwind of activity, with decisions being made at rapid pace. While agility is essential, it shouldn't come at the expense of good governance. A functional board ensures that key decisions are made with a critical eye, adhering to best practices and legal requirements. This fosters transparency, builds investor confidence, and helps mitigate potential risks. In that regard, a well-connected board member can be a gateway to a world of resources. They might have established relationships with potential investors, critical partners, or even experienced mentors. These connections can be invaluable for a startup seeking to raise capital, establish strategic partnership, or simply gain a valuable insight from seasoned professionals. While securing experienced individuals is crucial, building a functional board goes beyond just resumes. It's about achieving the right composition and chemistry. The key lies in seeking board members with a diverse range of skills and experience. that fill the gaps in your startup expertise. Don't shy away from independent thinking, who challenge assumptions, fostering healthy debate for better decisions. Remember, board members must be willing to dedicate significant time and actively engage in discussions. Finally, ensure a strong culture fit. The board should share your core values and vision, creating collaborative environment where everyone is rowing in the same direction. The Chartered Institute of Directors is a strong proponent of fostering good governance at all levels. We believe that by building functional boards, we can empower startups to overcome challenges, navigate the complexities of growth, and achieve their full potential. Remember, a board isn't just a regulatory requirement, it is a strategic advantage. So all startups embrace the value of functional boards. 6 experienced individuals who can guide you, challenge you, and connect you. Together, you can ignite your journey to success, transforming your brilliant ideas into thriving business that shape the future. Finally, may I say, it's my honor and a privilege to give these opening remarks, and I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. That was a very wonderful remarks coming from you. Of very important pertinence that we should note is the distinction between a business that is just a rousing flame and a business that is, set to stay and be in existence for a longer period. So we thank you very much for that very encouraging words. And we also thank you very much for the opportunity and the initiative, not just yourself, but the entire Executive Council members and the Institute for this very wonderful opportunity to groom young directors, in anticipation of the value that organizations within Nigeria would benefit from. And this is one of the reasons why we're having today's webinar, to look into, the essence of corporate governance to startups, even small businesses, and see how they can, leverage on the principles and the learnings that we have here to grow into bigger organizations that, continue to add to the GDP of Nigeria and, of course, empower our economy. So without much ado, I just want to introduce our first speaker, who is no stranger to corporate governance. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome. So without much ado,
another meeting by 11. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Exercise. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. Without much ado, yes, sir. Would like to introduce our next speaker, who is no stranger to us. Do we have Mr. Sheson Shubawale, FCIS MIOD, with us?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm here.
Thank you very much. It is an honor and a privilege to have you. Your wealth of experience is what we hope to leverage on today, and then see what we can pick up in terms of empowering our businesses, empowering our startups, and ensure that we all continue to grow our sustainable businesses. So I'll call on Victoria to read out your profile. Ms. Victoria, are you around? Are you available? Okay, I'll just read the profile. I think she's not yet online. We apologize for the issues we had today. Mr. Sheson Shubawale is a solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court with over 30 years of hands-on commercial, legal, corporate relations, and senior business leadership experience, spanning commercial legal practice, telecommunications, and banking and financial services. He was, at various times, the Company Secretary Legal Advisor and the Corporate Relations Director of Guinness Nigeria PLC. He was also a non-executive director of Diageo Brand Nigeria Limited. Mr. Sheson is the head legal services and general counsel at Union Bank of Nigeria PLC. He's a non-executive director of Unique Venture Capital Management Company Limited. He's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria and the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. He is currently a member of the ICSAN Governing Council. Mr. Chesson is the immediate past chair of the Association of Banks, legal advisor, and company secretaries. He is on the steering committee of the Corporate and Regulatory Council Committee of the NBA, section on business law. He's also a member of the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria. Mr. Chesson, you're welcome. Over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Well, all protocols duly observed, but I mean, I will be remiss in my duty if I don't acknowledge the presence of the President and Chair of the Governing Council of the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria, Alhaji Tijani Borodo, who is a mentor and one of our trustees at ABLAX. So good morning, sir, and thank you very much for the privilege. And I also like to thank the Young Directors Forum for this opportunity to share some thoughts on this very important topic about on corporate governance for startups. So that said, and I'd also like to appreciate everyone on the call, both on the YDF side and businesses, startups, directors, and governance professionals who are in this meeting this morning. So that said, I'd just like to share my thoughts as I speak to the presentation. So if the YDF events can help to put up the presentation from their end. I can then quickly run through the thoughts that I have to share this morning. I mean, I can also share from this end if that's preferred. So let me know which, how we should proceed. Okay. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So let's go to the next slide. So I'm starting this morning with some definitions. And I thought it's important to define three key terms. So first is startups. Now, startups are young companies that are established to develop a unique product or service and bring it to the market and build up that product or service into a successful business venture that then gives returns both to the founders and the investors, and then to other key stakeholders, including the government in form of taxes, and then of course general citizens in form of employment and other benefits downstream. Now, I also thought it's important to define SMEs because startups will usually start as small and medium scale enterprises. Now, there are many definitions for SMEs, but I'm adopting the one provided in the SME corporate governance guidelines that was just released in May 2024. And it describes an SME, first in terms of assets, as a business with assets, not including land and machinery, between 5 million and less than 500 million naira. Now, it's also important to define who a director is, and a director is the person who has been appointed by the company to direct and manage the business of the company. And I take that definition from the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 as amended. Now, every company, except a small company, is required to have a minimum of 2 directors. A small company can get away with having 1 director, but every company must have a minimum of 2 directors if they're not a small company. And that then means that startups, if they are organized as a corporate entity, must have a board of directors. Now, so how do we select, what should guide startups in selecting people to their boards? So first, in terms of numbers, because you are in the starting phase of your business, you should not overload the board with too many people. Now, some people will say maybe 3 is enough. There are several school of thought that said 4 is enough, and there's nothing wrong with 4, but I always like to have odd numbers on the board. So I would say between 5 and 7. You should probably tend towards the lower number than the higher number. Now, because of the several competencies that you will require on a successful board. And then you should look for a balance of skills and experience. So regardless of the nature of your business, don't populate your board with subject matter experts, in only one area. And then, so you should look for, people who bring several competencies to your board. No matter what your business is, it might be in tech, it might be in, food, it might be in logistics, whatever it is, you are going to need marketers, you're going to need people with regulatory experiences, you are going to need finance people. And then in selecting members of your board, don't go for celebrated but overcommitted people, right? I mean, there are some people, they're very brilliant, in whatever it is that they do. They have a very good track record of success. But they are already on, 5 boards. Some of them public companies. They are on the board of trustees of their churches or mosque. They are, in their estate committee and all that. And essentially what that then means is that, too much of a good thing can be bad sometimes. So you have brilliant people who, if they can give you the share of mind that you need, will be excellent directors, but they're already overcommitted. And it doesn't matter how brilliant you are, every one of us has only 24 hours. So watch out for that. Then also watch out for culture fit, right? The board is going to meet regularly, at the very least 4 times in a year. Now, because you're a startup, you are more likely than not to meet more than 4 times in a year. And so these people are going to be interacting with themselves and so on and so forth. So consider their worldview and consider, their values, and make sure that you're bringing together people who have, the right set of values and can work together. Then watch out for diversity. I mean, the diversity debate, right, is overflow. So we understand what diversity is. We understand what a diverse board brings to the table. But when you're looking for diversity, we're not just talking about gender diversity alone. So look for diversity that covers even age diversity, right? So you might say, well, this startup, the CEO or the founder is in his 30s, and therefore should be looking for people around this age. That may very well be true, but sometimes you can buy experience. And so sometimes getting someone who is slightly older, but very well experienced can make a big difference. Also look for sometimes ethnic diversity given our environment. And it's not just because you want every tribe in Nigeria to be represented on your board, but sometimes culturally, the way we relate from, ethnic group to ethnic group differ. So for example, one of the things I'm going to point out is that it's great to be, people of good character and, very cultured people. But you also don't need people who are too polite. And it's been said that, in some of our ethnic groups in Nigeria, there are some ethnic groups that they tend to be too polite. And sometimes polite people, won't tell you the hard truth that you need to know. So watch out for, that balance of diversity. Also watch out for the connections of, your board. And it depends on, the nature of your business and where you are at. So if, for example, your business is providing a unique service to government agencies. Now, the success or failure of your business or that business can depend on how quickly your invoices are paid after you have provided the service or the goods, right? And sometimes bringing the kind of directors who have public sector experience or who have connection in those areas can make the difference between, you're getting paid in the contractual 30 days, right? Or not getting paid for almost a year. And that is important, for example, because if you assess, bank funding, for example, and at today's very high rates, right? So they give you a loan, maybe even as a preferred customer at 26 or 28% per annum. Now, the more times you can turn that supply business over, the better for your financing. So, for example, if you take a loan at 25%, a loan of say 10 million naira at 25% per annum, now you already have to pay the bank at least 2.5 million. Now, if you supply and you're paid in a 30-day cycle, right, you can turn over that facility, at least 4 or 5 times in a year. And so your 25%, at the end of the day becomes, like maybe sub 10% even. But if when you supply, people who are promised that they will pay you, contractually committed to paying you in 30 days, don't pay you in 180 days, 365 days, that your business is already dead in the water. So make sure that you bring people who might have connections in, maybe in your customer base and so on and so forth. And then, of course, you also need to bring people who believe in your vision. So they have passion, for your business and are able to commit the mental and physical time that you need. So when they are not even in board meetings, let's say thinking about your business, they're sending you notes of best practices or examples to learn. Then, of course, being people of integrity, good character, great experience, sound judgment, who have the courage to state the hard truth, and who have respect for processes and controls, and can follow through. There were the board meeting in January. There were a few commitments from management. When they come for the next board meeting in April, they're asking you about those commitments that you have made. And they may be difficult when they are, raising those issues, but they're actually helping you to grow your business. And I've already spoken about the presence of mind. So if we go to the next slide, which speaks to director search, right? Now, the way that a PLC will look for suitable directors, especially, either independent, non-executive or non-executive directors, are different from the way that a startup will look for directors. So the first thing I said is as a startup, don't go and hire consultants to look for your directors, right? Be clear about what you're looking for and carefully look through your network, right? You may ask people that, fit those requirements, and they may not be able to commit the time, but they may like your vision, and therefore they may be able to recommend other people. In fact, they may be able to speak to other people who may make the time commitment. That will be excellent value addition to your board. So be clear about what you're looking for and go for it. Then know where to look, right? Now, one of the issues that we've been asked to address, for example, is, how do startups find suitable directors, especially when you are in some innovative field, such as, tech and so on and so forth. And my response to that is that it may well be that the bench is not very deep when it comes to certain competencies, right? But the reality is that you don't need to populate your board with people with only one competency, no matter how attractive that competency is, right? So you may need tech people, maybe 1 or 2 tech people, but you may also need lawyers, you may need finance people, you may need marketers, you may need, supply chain managers, and so on and so forth. So think beyond, I need tech people, or I need people who have expertise in food production or food distribution or in agriculture. When you have, planted and harvested the product, you also have to sell them. And don't forget you have competition. So you also have to think about, marketing and so on and so forth. And then use your network. Everybody has a network. We have OSCO networks, we have professional networks, such as, the Young Directors Forum and the Chartered Institute of Directors of Nigeria more broadly, which, provides an excellent platform for director recruitment. And then think broadly. And when you do all of that, it shouldn't be such a hard task to find good directors on your board. Then, and at the next slide, I've already spoken about this sector-specific expertise. And the point is what reiterating that no business requires only one skill set. Even for fintech or socialpreneur, you need a combination of skills. So just think broadly and go and look for them. For socialpreneurs in particular, you need skills such as sustainability and communication and peer professionals. And therefore, you can go out and look for them. Now, before I move up this slide, now there's a tendency to start to look for big people, big people with, long profile, very wide experience, and so on and so forth. But as a startup, and even as a bigger business, sometimes looking for younger people with maybe just 10 years, but real hands-on experience, can bring more value than people who have 40, 50 years experience. And that's not knocking people who are, long-term experience. I'm just saying that, look, you're a startup, right? So therefore, don't always start or look at the top, right? Look at the middle as well. You may have people who are in middle management role, even senior management roles with, 10, 15 years experience, who may be able to add more value to your board than, people who have several decades of experience. Moving on to the next slide, which also addresses, informal network, and I won't spend time on this. I mean, the slide is very clear. Make sure, you can look in various places, and you'll always find good directors. Now, addressing governance concerns for startups. I've made the point about the right size and composition. So my recommendation is between 5 and 7. I tend to be the lower number, which is 5, but depending on the nature of your business, you can stretch that to 7. Make sure it's very well diverse. Define the roles and expectations from your directors in a formal document. So you may not be a listed PLC, but it's all very valuable to have a board charter. We set out what you expect of people who come to your board. So that if things start to go wrong, they won't think that you're bringing rules because of certain people. They already know that there are rules governing director behavior, what you expect, time commitment, and so on and so forth. And then recruit very carefully. It's not everyone that you can work with. It's not everyone who is successful in managing a business, either a CEO or executive director, that can add value to your board. I mean, there are people whose ego grow as their profile and reputations also grow as well. So you need to be careful about selecting those people, and then make sure that when you have a board, you actually engage and empower them. Now, there are young businesses, startups, who think about a board because it's a legal requirement. So they struggle to convene board meetings. They struggle to bring issues to the board. They struggle to leverage the board's experience and skills. So at the end of the day, what you just have is a figurehead board. Now, if carefully chosen, your board can actually add great commercial, financial value to your business. So make sure that if you have the board, you are very clear in your board charter about the issues reserved for the board. Make sure that those issues go to the board on a regular basis. Make sure that you listen to their suggestions and proposals. And when decisions are taken, make sure that those decisions are carried out. A board that feels valued and empowered will give you more over the long term. And then regularly evaluate your board, right? The fact that you have a board today because you're starting, because CAMA requires it, does not mean that the directors on that board will serve you for life, right? Now, every business, especially startup, go through different phases. So there is the growth phase where you need particular skills right, and temperament. And of course, there's the, maturity phase, there's the, diversification phase, and so on and so forth. And you may not have the same kind of skills for those phases. So if your board charter is clear about the tenure of each director, and my recommendation, so for example, best practice recommendation is, look, 4 years, 4 to 5 years, and then renewable ones, right? But if you are starting up, I think you should probably try and have a shorter tenure, so that as your business grows and evolves, you can bring on new directors and you can say thank you to those who have served you well in your earlier phase of growth. And then talking about family-owned businesses, the same principles that I've spoken about would apply broadly in family-owned businesses. It may well be that, because this business is family-owned, you may have, maybe more than 1 or 2 family members on the board. But you also need to be careful about that, right? So yeah, maybe family-owned businesses where family will be represented in management, but not all members of management need to be on the board. So as you think through the composition of your board in terms of the balance between executive and non-executive directors, or independent and non-independent directors, think about, culture fit, character, availability, culture, courage, and other factors that were spoken about earlier. And if people need them means that some of your family members who are executive directors are not on the board, then so be it. Because if they are executive director, they will have interface with the board on a regular basis. They're just not former members of the board. Now, if you go to the next slide, balancing risk and opportunity. The way to solve that issue is selecting people with the right skills, experiences, character, passion, and entrepreneurial spirit. If you select the right crop of people and you have a well-diverse crop, the odds are that they would be able to embrace appropriate risk-taking and be able to solve problems for you. So it's really all about the people and the diversity of skills, experience, and competences that they're bringing. And then regulatory challenges. Yeah, I don't know why this was highlighted in particular, because every business, will have regulatory challenges, regardless of, whatever sector you're playing in. But, this can be a specialist area because there's so many laws and regulations in different sectors. And then some sectors have more regulations and guidelines than others. So if you are playing in the finance sector, for example, right, you have, many more regulations. And therefore, if you're playing in that field, for example, then it may be very useful to have someone with a regulatory or compliance background. Now, a well carefully selected lawyer can bring, both regulatory and legal competencies to your board. So it really depends on where you play and the regulatory issues that, you confront on a day-to-day basis. And before I lose the thread, now I've spoken about well-diverse board and I've spoken about skills and competencies, but it's also important, right, depending on the sector in which you play, to consider whether you want to bring on your board someone that represents your major customer demographic, right? Because, that person will bring in a customer-centric perspective to your deliberation. And at the end of the day, you're producing or you are rendering services for your customers. So it's always very important to consider someone who knows what the customer wants. And so that when you're deliberating, they can bring that perspective into your decision-making process. Then, addressing, the competent director, I think I've already spoken to that as well, right? Think broadly. Don't just think about subject matter experts. Think about, all of the experience you need in your value chain, marketing, logistics, and so on and so forth. If you're manufacturing, nothing wrong with, but one of the sectors that, have where their logistics management has a major impact on their profitability and their efficiency is telecoms, for example. Nothing wrong in bringing someone who's managed logistics or sales and distribution in telecoms into a manufacturing space, or into another sector where your logistics is quite critical. And the value that they bring will be really, really massive. And sometimes if you don't think that way, you might think, what has manufacturing got to do with telecoms? But if you think about, the way they run, different businesses are run, you might be surprised that, maybe the best, one of the best non-executive directors to bring on your board in a bank even is someone who has managed marketing in manufacturing or in the FMCG. So just think really very broadly about that. Then social impact, it's all about your vision and mission. Make sure that it is well crafted, make sure that it is documented, make sure that you are recruiting board members who can deliver, who can help you deliver on that vision and mission. And people have the right values. There are some people who are hugely successful in managing businesses, but they don't care about sustainability because, in their business, it's not a huge, issue. But this is 2024. There's no way that you are going to start a business, a startup, that you shouldn't be thinking about sustainability because it impacts really everything, not just from a regulatory point of view, but even from a customer-centric point of view. If sustainability is important to your customers, then it needs to be important to you. People just don't want to buy your product and, give you their money. They also want to, make sure that businesses whose values are aligned with theirs, get a fair share of, their spending power. So it's all about clarity in vision and mission, recruiting people who can support that vision and mission, and then making sure that you also engage the board, right, in terms of, your strategic thinking around this area. Then board evaluation, as I said, the way in is always the way out. Make sure you have the board charter, which covers all of these issues, and that when people are coming to your board, they know what to expect from you, you know what to expect from them, and therefore, it will be very easy to then say, look, this is the scorecard, and you've done well, and so we're going to give you a second term, or you tried your best, but we think we need to look, further afield for fresh directors. Now, going into asking the hard questions, I've already mentioned that. There are some people who culturally find it difficult, to ask the right questions. So they're very polite. And it's great to be polite and be a man of culture who respect our elders and who respect founders and so on and so forth. But you also need people who can challenge your thinking and ask you hard questions. So you need a balance. And as I said before, your diversity on the board can help you solve that problem. And then as I conclude, we've been asked to speak about, whether we can cite some successes. So I've listed some names there, and I'm sure that, those in the audience can add their own name: Flutterwave, Paystar, Move, Interswitch, Conga, Andela, about, started as startups. And today they are very well-known household names in the country. Some of them have sold their businesses at, huge premium and have gone on to do other things. So what are the key factors of their successes? Adherence to corporate governance. You can't rule that out. They have entrepreneurial spirit. The business environment at the time was favorable. They had a good business plan, and they were disciplined, and they have personal codes of ethics. And they are founders who can pivot very quickly. So they've gone into a business on the basis of a set of assumptions. Market has changed, policies has changed, demographic is changing, the world is changing, and they've essentially just changed with those dynamics and, become even more successful than they could dream of. And then I close on, just to share a few examples of startup failures. And the list is deliberately slim, not because that, you know, we don't have a lot of startup failures, but obviously you also want to be respectful of the entrepreneurial spirit that, you know, has prompted founders to go into those businesses. I'm sure many years ago, we know about a company called Ydf, which was essentially set up to challenge the dominance of the leading cable TV provider. And unfortunately, you know, folded up after a few years. And then, of course, we know 54G. Now, so for businesses who have started and failed, many of them are around, you know, finance, access to finance, the right mix of finance, right? I mean, they have their own capital, but of course, if you are accessing debt capital or line of credit from the bank, depending on your margins or, you know, the business you're playing in, that itself can, you know, leave your business dead in the water. If you don't address IP issues professionally, right, or proactively, that can also be a big issue. Remember, ITV was embroiled in some legal tussles with, you know, the dominant cable TV provider, and that was part of the challenge. And of course, you know, they bidded for a right to broadcast EPL, and in my view, they probably paid too much for it because, of course, they had to outbid the other parties, and then, of course, commercially, they just couldn't sustain that business. Sometimes lack of sound visibility studies. So sometimes people are too bullish about, you know, their growth prospect or the uptake of the product or service in the market, and so the assumptions are too ambitious, and therefore they can't meet it. I've spoken about government policies. That's somewhere, depending on the nature of your business, you also have to keep an eye on, right? Government can change policies overnight, and it can just kill your business, you know, without you thinking about it. And then lack of good corporate governance. As I've said before, there are many companies start up with boards, but as far as they are concerned, that's just a legal requirement. They don't respect the board. They don't consult the board. They don't have board meetings. They don't leverage the board. And, you know, they just do their own thing because, you know, they're in a hurry. And it's acceptable for founders and innovators to be in a hurry. But there is a value that good boards bring. And so even when you are in a hurry, you can please make it slowly, especially when it comes to core corporate governance issues. And then there's excessive risk taking. So I'd like to thank you, Madam Chair. That is my presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. That was very, very insightful. And of course, we didn't expect anything less with your level of experience and exposure. And we knew you were going to do justice to that topic. Mr. Chesson is a member of the IOD, and we're trying to see how we can get him to be one of our volunteer mentors. And I hope that some of you will be willing to join the YDF and leverage some of the opportunities and initiatives behind the forum. Thank you very much for that. Of course, we take a recap, beware of consultants, avoid overtly busy people in your search, in your selection, board selection criteria. Watch out for the necessary skills, diversity in terms of competencies, and of course, passion. Make sure you have a culture fit board, and then look for board members who have the right connection to assist your business and ensure that they have a value to add to your business, you know, in the long term. So there are some questions in the chat room. I got your message that you need to rush in for another meeting, so you will not be able to join the Q&A session. Very pertinent. So for startups who do not have the finance or the ability to pay, you know, directors and, you know, put together a very robust board, what is your advice? How do they go about leveraging the insights that a board you really should provide to startups and to businesses generally?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. I think that you should be very open about, you know, the state of your finances to prospective directors, right? I mean, there are directors who would say, look, you know, my time is valuable and I need to be paid. But believe you me, there are directors who will be impressed by your vision right? Your entrepreneurial spirit. And once they check the time commitment and it's not too onerous, they'll be willing to do this pro bono, right? They'll be willing to, they might say, okay, for the first 1 year, no sitting allowance, because I like what you guys are doing. I like to support you, and so on and so forth. But you also, and I mean, it's great to have free service, but depending on where you play, so, you know, maybe, I mean, for when you get directors like that, when you are able to remunerate them, you know, as the business grows and your finances improves, think about, you know, offering something. Now, even if you can't offer cash, maybe at the end of the year, maybe you are in food, maybe you are producing 1 or 2 things, send them a Christmas hamper or something like that. But like I said, there are celebrity directors, right? People have huge experiences, decades of experiences, and everybody wants them on their board. But there are also people who don't have that much experience, but actually they also see sitting on boards as a good opportunity for them to broaden their own experience as well. So don't be deterred by the fact that the first few people that you approach are turned off by the fact that you're not going to remunerate them. But as you keep looking, you will find people who will be impressed enough by your passion and what you're trying to do that they will give pro bono service, at least as you are starting, until you start seeing the money.
Yeah, very, very wonderful response. Okay, so we have another question. The ideal number of board, you said 5 to 7. Does this include executive directors?
Yes, total number of boards. You don't need too many people. And obviously that also says that, you know, you also have to keep an eye on that balance. Like I said, not everybody needs to be on your board. Not every ED, executive director, needs to be a board director. So they can operate below the board, you know. And but
okay, so so can you make just a quick distinction for those who do not know what's the difference between your NED and your executive director?
Okay, so your executive directors are senior executives in the company. So they are employees who work for the company, heading, you know, one division or one department or the other, headed by the managing director or chief executive officers. And then your non-executive directors are external directors who are not employees, who are bringing some of those skills and competencies that I spoke about earlier.
Okay, so somebody is also asking about an advisory board. How does that work? What is that all about? How can startups take advantage of, you know, the advisory board system?
Okay, so it's great to have an advisory board, and you know it sounds very nice. But when you are a startup and you are trying to grow your business and all that, don't overload yourself. Just have a functional board first. When you start making the money and then you know your business becomes billion naira business, you can start to look for advisory board. And if for big businesses, you know, too many cooks spoils the broth, right? So, and I know that that's not a discussion for today, but my general guidance is that if you're a startup, you don't need an advisory board. You just need a good, competent board, you know, very compact, very focused and committed.
Okay, so it's a very hard question. Really, you can't afford it. You can't find someone within your network. You don't belong to an institute such as the Chartered Institute of Directors. You can't take advantage of their mentorship program or incentive or what have you. What can such a startup or what can such a person do in terms of, because finding some oversight direction for your business, because everybody needs a boss. Even if you're the owner of your business, you need a boss. So what can such a person do really?
Okay, so if you are a founder, right, of a business, God has promoted you already, so you have to step up, right? So those professional networks are asynchronous. You can't have a vision to build a big business without networking, right? Now the question is, so you don't have it. What do you need to do? Join the IoT. How much is the membership fee? So join the IoT, visit the office, find out about them, become a member. They won't give you an exam to become a member. So join, right? And then think broadly about your network. Everybody has a network, whether you belong to IoT or not. But it's a good start. You're already a managing director, founder, join the IoT. Then think about other network, old school network, professional network. I'm sure you will find someone. And even if you are looking for advice, you walk into CIoD and say, I've just started this business, I'm looking for counsel. I am sure they will refer you to people who can handhold you, even through the process of building your board, for free of charge.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Sheson Shobawale. It's always an interesting time with you. Every moment spent with you is always worth it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing from your wealth of experience. We really appreciate you. Thank you so very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for having me.
Oh, all right, you're welcome. So to everyone, you heard it, grow your network. So take advantage of this opportunity. Use the chat room to introduce yourself. And of course, anybody who's interested, to meet you, know you, get to know you better, and leverage on whatever experience or whatever network or opportunity or value that you have and the value that you also have to share. Take advantage of that moment. We're still here for the next, I think, 45 minutes. Yeah, it's one of the benefits of being a member of the forum. So thank you all for attending. And then we'll move on to the next speaker. Victoria, over to you. Thank you, Mr. Sheson, once again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm Victoria Odimba, the Public Relations Officer for Ydf CIoD. Okay, so our next speaker is Mr. Ayokunle Olushola Ayopo. Ayokunle is a lawyer, chartered secretary, certified management consultant, certified compliance analyst, independent director, and notary public. He worked in the company secretariat of First Bank and FBN Holdings PLC, where he served on, just a second. Okay. When he served as company secretary for FBN Insurance, General Insurance Limited, now Salam General Insurance Limited, and FBN Insurance Brokers Limited, all subsidiaries of FBN Holdings PLC. He was also company secretary, legal advisor for Better Paints PLC, and company secretary, general counsel for International Breweries PLC, AB InBev, between 2018 to 2023. He's currently the group company secretary and head of legal and chief compliance officer at the CIoD Nigeria Group. Ayokunle holds a second-class upper LLB honorable degree from the University of Ibadan, an executive diploma in international law and diplomacy from Kingsland Foundation, and a certificate in global governance and diplomacy from the European School for Business for Leadership Development. Ayokunle has won several awards, including the 2019 Nigeria Legal Awards 40 Under 40 from the ESQ magazine, the 2022 Africa 40 Under 40 Awards, and the 2020 Modern Governance 100 General Councils Award, the 2022 Modern Governance 100 Global and Ethics Leader Award from Diligent Corporation, New York. He has also been in the Legal 500 GC Power List, Nigeria 2024. Ayokunle holds fellowships from the Institute of Management Consultants, Nigeria, FIMC, and the Global Academy of Finance and Management, USA. He's a member of the Nigeria Bar Association, International Bar Association, Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators, Society for Corporate Governance, Nigeria, and the Chartered Institute of Directors, Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's welcome Mr. Ayokunle Ayopo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It's nice to be here, and thank you for the introduction. So how do we do this? For actually, so I'm to speak on startups from a regulatory standpoint, I believe, and
yes, please, from a regulatory standpoint, and of course, what is the role of the Chartered Secretary? We're talking about the board, and we know that apart from your executive directors, non-executive directors, your company secretary plays a very significant role as a member of your board, so ensuring that your board is efficient and adding value to the business. So as a chartered secretary, and of course the group commerce secretary, CIoD PLC. Yeah, we're looking forward to learning some new insights about your full composition and of course other insights that you have to share. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Shadi. I'll say that allow me to speak on this from two standpoints. The standpoint of the chartered secretary, and also as someone that has been a part of a startup, having been part of Kaizen Academy for about 5-6 years, and so I can speak a bit with using the two caps. And I'll say that first, from a chartered company secretary's perspective, I'm not so sure how many startups really think it's important to have a company secretary in the first place. How much more a chartered company secretary? So the first challenge usually when you have startup is to think, why should I spend so much on legal costs when I can outsource? Some might not even bother outsourcing anyway. So you tend to realize that the last thing in terms of costs is spending on legal and spending on company secretarial. However, the problem with that thinking is that you would have a situation where key regulatory things you are meant to keep an eye on, nobody's keeping an eye on it. And then you have a situation where you are facing regulatory hurdles. You are not filing returns. You're not filing your taxes and all of that gamut. And so I'll say that it's a challenge, especially for startups, because one of the things you first think about when you're starting a business is to think about how you can optimally maximize your finances and your startup capital. So I'll say that in recognition of this, I'll say that in setting up a regulatory framework, a legal framework, a compliance framework, one of the things you have to keep in mind is to do an analysis of what works best for you. And I'll say that, yes, I understand a lot of startups that will think, why can't we just outsource this? Because it might actually be financially more beneficial for you to outsource at the starting point. However, one thing you cannot afford to do is to just take your mind off it completely. And so it's very important to ensure that you set up a structure. You probably get a lawyer or an outsourced law firm to handle your compliance issues, and which is very important, because part of what you want is advisory, right? And part of what you want to do, I mean, we learned a lot from my Mr. Shubowale, who has said a lot about the composition of the board. And so part of what you want to also learn is governance advisory from your lawyers, from your company secretary, on how you want to set up your board. Now, one of the things you have to keep in mind when setting up your board is that, look, like I also said, you don't want to have all comers. You don't want to have a situation where you are not flexible in terms of your decision making, when you have too many people having an opinion on how the company should be run. And so those are some of the things you have to keep in mind as well. Now, in coming up, I mean, we learned a lot about board composition, but some of the things I would also, say is that when you are thinking about board composition, you have to first even identify the skill match matrix which you want to see on your board. At times you get a situation where the board is made up of similar skilled people, because that might be your skill set. And so, of course, most times when people pick board members, they generally pick from their circle of friends and all of that. But it's important to, first of all, even identify the skill matrix for which you want to set up the board, and what the board has to be focused on. And then secondly, network. Mr. Shubowale has spoken about network, and I'm going to double down on it. There's no way you can have a successful business without your network, because the truth is, it's people in your network that will give you your first set of, deals, so to say, so first set of briefs. So your network is very critical. At the startup point, most people don't understand what you're doing. Most people don't actually have you have questions of credibility, because people are thinking, who are these guys? Who are they? So new people will find it difficult to do business with you. And so the people that you really would rely on at the starting point are your network. And on to the question about how do you build your network, Mr. Shobole has suggested joining the IoD. I'll say that there are other ways you can also do that. You have to leverage social networks. You have to leverage your social platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter. These are platforms you can actually use, and you might not know this, but there are actually people on that network that you can actually leverage on your leverage on and then build your business. I can say this because it's something we have tried and that Kaizen has worked. And what that does is that it also opens you up to not just local opportunities, but also global opportunities. Then another thing is you have to think about your board composition has to be such that not only do people have experience in the business which you do, you also have to look at functional experience. You have to also look at how many of them have actually been involved in a startup before, or have experienced some level of success in startup businesses. So for instance, now if I'm setting up a board, I have to think about somebody that can think along the lines of innovation. I have to think about people that can start thinking and be comfortable in the line of in line of AI, artificial intelligence. One of the questions I usually recommend to startup and businesses generally is to ask questions about not what the business is going to be in 10 years time, or how will business be in 10 years time, but rather look at what are those things that, whether it's now or whether it's 10 years time, will still be in demand. So for instance, whether it's now, whether it's next year, whether it's 10 years time, you are going to have people that want your services for lower prices. No matter how 10 years, no matter how the world changes, nobody's going to come 10 years time and ask you and say that, you know what, I like your product, I want to pay more. No, nobody's going to do that. Everybody wants to get lower prices. Everybody wants to be up to date in terms of technology. So you have to think along that line too as well. You have to look at boards that can think along the line, that can be forward thinking. I've always asked the question that, especially with African businesses, to say that, look, if you're an African business, are you thinking along the lines of, AI, how AI impacts your business? And for African businesses, most African businesses don't have chief artificial intelligence officers, which is now known as CIO. It's a new thing, and it's all over Europe. Literally, companies in Europe, I'll say most companies that are forward thinking already have CIOs. However, in Africa, we're not thinking along that line. And this is the same market which we all play in. So the board has to be thinking. The board has to be thinking along the lines of what's next, what's the future, what can we do, what is not going to change about our business model or our business strategy. How can we do things better? How can we make it more efficient and yet much more cheaper? So those are the questions you will think about. And then for you to bring people on board, you have to bring people that can think along that line of thoughts, that thought process. Those are the kind of value I think in this age and time you should be looking at from a strategic point of view. I spoke about utilizing network as well. I'll say that, again, startups need to be culturally sensitive and understand the nuances of the local business for which they operate in. Nigerian business is different from, the Nigerian business environment is different from other business environments. So you have to understand that, look, you are playing a very interesting business environment where crisis is the norm rather than the unusual. So you have to think along that line. Now, I start up again, back to my point about the fact that when we speak about all these things, you are thinking, how do I ensure I can get a board that can actually do some of these things that I've mentioned? And I'll also still align with Shobole to say that there are times where you bring people on board, you have to explain to them that, look, this is the stage the company is at this point. We cannot afford to pay you at this time for your time, for fees and all of that. And if you get people that buy into that vision, then it's all good. It's important that, and I'll even say that the board is more important from the point of view of credibility at the startup phase. because you are not yet known. A lot of people are thinking, who are these people? Why should I leave the person I'm using to come and join these people? So what the board will do for you, more critically for me, is to give you some sort of credibility, because the persons you are going to bring onto your board are people that are meant to be industry leaders, people that have developed credibility, people that have developed a name in the industry. So when you have people like that on your board, what it then does is that even when they don't know your startup business as an entity, they can look at the people behind your business and think, okay, well, I don't know this business, but I know this person. And if this person is part of this business, then I can't trust this business. So it's very important that at the startup stage, key thing that you should be looking out for is trust. Trust of the market, trust of the customer, trust of the client. And so that's one of the things I would say that is one of the critical things that the board should bring on board. And of course, it's important also to, despite having a board at the startup stage, to be flexible, to be nimble, such that decision making doesn't become so clogged in the wheels of bureaucracy. So I'll say these are my opinion thoughts, and I'll say that this is what I think companies should be looking to when they are setting up the governance systems of a startup and it's important to also key critically. And lastly, as part of my opening remarks, is that businesses must understand that they don't know it all, and everything you have is never planned from the beginning. So you must be nimble enough, you must be flexible enough to try ideas and see whether it works. If it doesn't work, you must be able to reverse and see and re-strategize, and then make decisions that may be more effective. What you don't want to do is to have a company where you are going through, you are doing something and it's not working, and you keep digging into that hole. And so I'll say that you must be flexible, you must take feedback, and you must be nimble. Decision making must not be such that, you know, then because you have a board, then decision making, you present it to the board, and the board is deliberating and doing all of that like the big companies. No, it's important that the advantage, one of the major advantages for small companies, is their nimbleness and their ability to make quick decisions. And so if your decision making is such that it's becoming as bureaucratic as a big company, then there's a problem. That means your growth is going to be stifled. So I'll say that it's important to keep all of this in mind, strategic in your board composition, be sensitive to your local nuances, be committed to strong governance practices. Do not think it's expensive and so I can't expend resources on this. No, it's important from the beginning. There are quite a number of things that you do at the beginning that you'll actually see the benefit much later in your business life. So, and then finally, like I've said, feedback and adaptability is very important. It's very important as a business to be nimble, and it's very important to be flexible enough so that your growth is not stifled. Actually, I'll say that's my initial thoughts on this.
Thank you so very much for that. I just have a quick question. For me, can you tell us how does having a board actually help you attract the right investors? You know, I know we've spoken a lot about leveraging governance structure to ensure that your business thrives in the long run, effective decision making through quality of your board composition, and of course, you having a listening ear to feedback and being flexible enough. But how does all that enable you attract investors for your business? Because we all know that for startups, one of our major challenges is funding. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. How does the board attract funding? Interesting question. I had actually mentioned earlier, one of the things you want to do from the board is to look at a lot of things in your board composition. You want to look at people who have experience in startup businesses. And if they have experience in startup businesses, that means they have a network along that line. So if you have board members that have that experience, you can leverage on this experience, you can leverage on this network. And if you also have board members that understand the criticality of setting up initial governance structures for your business. They are usually very important. When you have good governance structures for your business, attracting the right investor becomes easy. Because usually when you see investors are usually concerned about two things. Is my investment safe? That's the first question. Second, do they have a structure that I can trust? If you are trying to look for investment and your business is all scattered, no organization, no structure, no tax returns, no compliance, nothing, no governance structure, nothing. How do you invest in that kind of business?
Exactly.
How do you trust them? You know, so one of the things that is important is you also have someone that has that experience. Now, if you have experience in startup business, you then know that look, one of the things you need to set up is that structure. You want to have that structure because at the end of the day, if you're even presenting to this investor, the investor is looking out for these things. So to build trust and to understand that, yes, you are actually capable and you can actually save with my investment. Then secondly, you also have to have board members that have a wide network. That's the honest truth, you know. So people that can make calls and then you can actually, they can make calls for you to even get to the boardroom to make your presentation. So you must also have people with network. You must have people that understand how startups operate. You must have people that have good understanding about how the governance system and the dynamics of the governance structure framework should work. You must have basic regulatory documents. You cannot go to an investor where all of your documents are not in place. Then the trust is not going to be there as well. So, and then again, I also mentioned, even you yourself that you are the promoter, it's important to have a very strong network. Some people would put money into that business, not because of your business idea, but because of you and the credibility that they associate with you. If people see you, for instance, if they are connected to you and they have trust in you and they believe in you, then making a case for a business becomes a bit easier, right? So that is one of the reasons why your network must be good. You cannot afford to be a loner if you want to do well in business. You must be such that you are open to all sorts of relationships, not just looking for senior friends. You must go down, you must go up. You can be willing to develop your network, and you cannot afford not to be open. You now have a lot of network platforms right now, and you just must leverage on this, because the thing with personal network is you are a bit limited if you are just relying on your interpersonal relationships. So it's important, for instance, at times also to be a thought leader. So if you're a thought leader and people start knowing you to be, through your thought process, you've explained how you use money, you explain how you do business, people can then relate and say, okay, this person knows how to manage money. So for instance, I read a lot over the years while we're growing, we read pieces and bits by Bismarck Rewani in the newspaper. So if, for instance, now he comes with an idea and tells me that I want to do this business, it's going to be easy for me to think that this person that I'm always reading about is going to know how to manage money and I can feel free with my investment with this person. So it's also important to use these platforms. It's important to speak about the business you do. It's important to open up, and then eventually that's some of the ways I think that you can actually expand your reach in terms of getting investors. And it's very important also. Another advantage of this network is these platforms is that it doesn't just restrict you to your local environment. Your interpersonal relationships might be, related to your local environment, but the advantage of using this platform is that, whatever it is you do, you can actually you can open yourself up to a global market, which is very critical at this point. Any business you're doing right now, you have to start thinking about it from a global perspective, because businesses are getting global, and it's important to key into that immediately.
All right, thank you so very much. If I hear you correctly, you cannot overemphasize the importance of networking and then being within the right circles. And as a member of the Supervisory Council of the Young Directors Forum, what passing words are you leaving with our participants today?
Okay, I'll say that a lot of, we've heard a lot from Mr. Shibowale, and in all of our conversations, one of the things I know you need critically is relationships, relationship management. Now, let me say a little bit about something about relationship management. One of my former bosses, I like it, Tijani Borodo, who is coincidentally the president of IOD, called me one time and said that, look, relationship management is like a bucket of water. You pick a cup and you take from that bucket of favor from time to time. You take from that bucket, you take from that bucket. Ensure you keep returning water into that bucket. Ensure you keep taking water into that bucket. Otherwise, one time you will try to take water from that bucket and it will be empty. Basically, what he was trying to say is that relationships must be nurtured. Relationships must be developed. Relationship management is critical. If you are leaving a job, make sure you don't burn the bridges. If you are leaving a relationship, make sure you don't burn bridges. You never know when to use it. And even if you have good relationships, don't just leave it there. Make sure you do something of value to the person. Make sure it doesn't necessarily have to be money. It might just be constant checking up on the person. Ensure that the line of relationship is never closed. So relationship is very, very important, because eventually it is this relationship that will determine whether that person is willing to support the business which you are about to start or which you are doing. So that relationship is critical. Again, I can't overemphasize network, and it's also important to ensure that when you're bringing people on board, ensure that they are not the type that will disturb your decision making. Because at times you get people on board and in trying to prove that they are knowledgeable about some things, they might just slow your decision making down and all of that. So I'll say overall, relationship management is one thing you should hold on to. Developing your network is something else I would say you should put develop a lot of time to, because at the end of the day, people do business. It's people that do business. Not business ideas don't run itself. People do business, and so it's important that you keep an eye on the people, keep an eye on the relationship management in terms of the people that support your business, and even also you have to also think about the human factor, about the clients you are dealing with as well. The clients must be the win. You must design your business around the customer. And when I say develop your business around the customer, don't think on behalf of the customer. At times you hear a lot of people bring things to bring products out saying, this is how the consumer thinks, but really, how much data have you put into that decision? At times, some of the things that you sell or some of the things you speak about, they're not the things that the customer wants. So it's important to get reliable and very reliable and credible feedback from the market, from the clients, from the consumer, so that you can then use that to fine-tune your value proposition.
Very much, Mr. Ayokunle Ayoku. It was a delight to have you, erudite speaker, experienced non-executive director, and chartered secretary. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. Over to you, Victoria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next speaker is Mrs. Yemisi Afariogun. Mrs. Yemisi Afariogun is an architect whose creativity, exceptional work ethics, and unique insight into the dynamics of the building design and real estate development niche define her as a valuable industry player. Her many years of experience across project management, team leadership, and architectural design has honed her versatility and helped her master operational realities of that industry. She holds a bachelor's degree in architecture, a master of environmental design in architecture, both from the University of Lagos, and an MSc in projects and enterprise management from the Bartlett School, University College, London. Her training, coupled with about 2 decades of career exposure, has strengthened her competence, affording her a well-developed skill set across architectural design projects, real estate development, and construction project management. Currently, Yemi is the managing director at RY Projects, a design and real estate development company, which she co-founded in 2014. RY Projects pursues innovation, excellence, and leadership within the building consultancy and property development space. Prior to her current position, she was project manager at FBN Mortgages Limited and Briscoe Properties Limited. In addition to a full work schedule, she's intentional about women empowerment and social responsibility. She consistently volunteers on social development projects and events, particularly those geared towards gender equity and the development of the girl child. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Yemisi Fabiogo. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Very much welcome. So we'll just dive straight into it. Can you give us an overview of your entrepreneurship journey, when you started, where you are, some of your challenges? Just run us through it.
Okay, thank you. So our project, I believe, was we started quite small. We started as in 2014. I registered the business in 2014, and we've grown organically. Since then, you know, with like a typical startup, it was we were riding basically on my personal experience and technical capacity. So everything was like on my shoulders. I was the CEO, the marketing manager, the operations manager, everything rolled into one, like most typical startups. So we started quite small and we grew organically for a few years. So it was only maybe after the 8th year that, you know, we took the bold step to establish a board. So we've had a board now for about 2 years. We established the board in 2 years, and since then, I think there's a remarkable change in how we do stuff, how we operate, and also the level of, I see a more sustainable growth in terms of strategy, leadership, even operations in general. So it was a big step. I wish we took that step earlier. And yes, so that's what RY is. RY project is an architectural practice and a real estate development company. And yes, we've grown substantially since we constituted the board. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now? Sorry about that.
Hear you now.
Okay, so from the inception when you started your board up until now, can you just give us some practical, you know, steps, practical changes that occurred in your business process, your governance structure? What are those? Because it's important for a lot of businesses who are here, who are very, you know, who are just starting, or those who do not have the relevant experience, you know, to be good for them to, you know, leverage your experience and then avoid certain pitfalls in moving on and ensuring that they have a sustainable business.
Okay. So when we started thinking about constituting a board, you know, the idea came, you know, internally, and I started looking and researching on how to really come together with a team that can help the business. The first thing, I think over the years, I had grown my network substantially. I had joined a few organizations. I joined Wimbase. I joined a few organizations actually. And then I studied my market and my business and my customers, the clients that I've been. So I started hanging out where they hang out, you know, those kind of, you know, just intentionally spreading my wings and trying to be amongst my customers and, you know, people that will generally impact my business. So I started speaking to a few mentors. I looked at businesses that I am impressed with their governance, and I spoke with my friends who run those businesses. That was the first thing I did. So I sat down with a few people, 3 people in particular, and we went through the process of constituting a board, what I should look at and what I should try to avoid. When I started trying to constitute a board, I started thinking in lines of, oh, who are the architects, who are the real estate developers that I can speak with within my network to join my board. And I quickly came to the realization, or I was advised against that you try to avoid conflict. So you try to avoid like potential competition on your board. So there were a few things that, that were critical in putting together the board. So like our previous speakers mentioned, you look at diversity. So I looked at diversity in I think about 4 things. So it was critical for me to consider diversity in terms of generation. So in terms of age, I decided early after a lot of consultation and advice that I was going to have a 5-man board. So that was me. My husband is a non-executive director in the business. So my husband, so I'll look for 3 other people. So I got one person that was in his 40s, I got somebody in her 50s, and then I got somebody that was in 60s. I got someone in his 60s. So it was important to have that diversity, because the thinking of, like, maybe for instance a Gen Z, some companies would need to have a Gen Z so that you can have the input and the thinking of that generation in the business. So it's good to identify what your business needs and then align accordingly. It was important for me to also have gender diversity. I've been a woman, so I sought another one, and then I had 3 guys on the board. It was important to also think about the functions that you want the board to fill.
Competency, diversity.
Competencies and experience. So I was looking at someone that was good with the legal aspect and had reach within the regulatory space in my business. And I also needed somebody that was big on financing and then the tax regulatory space. So those 2 things were things that I had identified early when I was coming together with the board. But when we put the board together and we were about to start, fortunately for me, okay, there was another. Then I also thought ethnic. When I researched successful companies and how I've watched them grow, one company in particular, I don't know if mentioning names is really appropriate, that I really admire how they have grown and succeeded, is Cardinal Stone Partners. So they have 4 partners who came together maybe in their early 30s. So I saw a lot of similarities within what I was trying to do and what they did. And they've been in business for over maybe 13, 14 years or something like that. So they had ethnic diversity as well. So they had one Yoruba, one Igbo, one Hausa. So I thought, oh, this may also be able to help your reach, countrywide. So if people identify you as, oh, that's a Yoruba company, it can limit your reach, or oh, that's an Igbo company, that's an Hausa company. So it's good to have that ethnic, if you want to operate nationwide, it's good to have that ethnic diversity as well. And then things I avoided people who had conflicts with the business, so no potential customers or no potential competition. And then also I try to avoid people with political controversies. So any type of controversy or bad reputation may also spill onto your business and your reputation, your brand. So I try to avoid anybody with adverse political exposure or things like that. So that was the starting point for our business. So as soon as we put together the board, they advised that I get, even before we had our first board meeting, my chairman had a few meetings with me. I identified him early, and it would be good for me to mention that I had no relationship with my chairman before we came together, before he joined the board. So what we did was, after identifying all the ingredients I wanted on the board, and the personalities that I wanted on the board. So it was important to first of all identify, okay, what I want on the board and what I want the directors to do. Some of the people I spoke with, as I was speaking with them, I was identifying, this one is going to be on my, that one is going to be on my board. So I said, you don't have a choice. And there was one person in particular that was already a very good, how would I put it? She was already helping me. She was already a good source of advice and referrals and sponsorship. When you don't just have some big aunties or some people that are already helping you. So that's a good place to start. And then after I identified 2 people, I thought, okay, I want a Hausa man. I want someone that is versed in the financial and accounting space. I want someone that is in his 60s. I want someone that, so we now researched and came up with one individual, and then found like someone in my network that had contact with that individual, and we approached him and he said yes. You know, so everybody keeps asking, how did you get this person on your board? How did you get, but you know, you have to look for people who would be patient with you, because it's not like we have all the money in the world. People who are ready to buy into your vision and help you grow. That's a good place to start. So it's not always about the money. It's just to find people who buy into your vision and are willing to help you grow. So that's how I started. So he met with me a few times before our first board meeting. I said, Yemi, you need to do like a strategy session, sit down and take a very good look at the business so that you can analyze the business and draw up a strategic plan. So I was saying, I can do it now. You know, I've been running this business. He said, no, you need to employ a consultant so that there's somebody looking at it from the outside with another perspective. So you can't do it yourself. You can't do it with your team. You can't sit down and say, oh, let's do our SWOT analysis. No. So we employed a team of consultants who went through the business and did a thorough analysis and tried to come up with like a strategic plan, reviewed our vision, questioned it, probed it. So we tweaked it a bit, our mission, you know, everything about our business. And what that did for us was it gave us a bit of clarity. It also exposed a lot of gaps that maybe we needed to work on and are still working on. And it will be also nice for me to also state that we are not perfect. So all of this is just work in progress. And we would always just aim to get better and do things better. But, you know, there's value in trying to do things right. So we did that, and, you know, it was clear to say, oh, we need to work on, you know, our operations. We need to, you know, tidy up our finances better. We need to, so there were a lot of things that came up and, you know, we are working on. So after a couple of meetings, then it was suggested also at the board meeting that, okay, Yemi, you need to go for some formal business training. Before that, I had no formal business training. And we researched and said, okay, which one was, we looked at the options that we had. And before also part of my research in trying to put together a good team for the board was joining CIoD. So when you join CIoD, there's a little course that you have to sign up for. And then it exposed me to a lot of things like financial analysis for non-finance directors. And, you know, so say a lot of concepts that maybe, you know, I knew a bit of, but I wasn't too vast with. You know, I'm a very technical person. I just thought, oh, once I can design, once I can build, you know, the business side of things, we'll get by, but it wasn't like a core competence that I had. So I went to LBS and I went through the OMP program, the owner management program. You know, that's like a mini MBAs for owner managers. So before I did that, it was difficult for me to up and leave the business. So that's also, you know, the area of sustainability. You know, almost everything evolved around me. So when you're going through that program, you would have to leave your business for a whole week. And it's a full-time program, like you are engaged from morning, like 9 to 5. You know, you start shortly before 9 and you finish shortly after 5. So there was no way I was able to work and attend the program. So what that did for me was that for a whole week, I had to leave the business. So I had to start developing processes and structure, tools and structure such that the business started operating largely without me for a short period of time. So that helps the business as well. You know, apart from the knowledge that I got from, you know, the 6-month program, it was over a period of 6 months. It was a wealth of knowledge, tools and techniques to manage businesses better. It also helped us in building structure away from me such that the business can run on its own without, you know, Madam being in the office all of the time. Yeah. So yes, in a nutshell.
Okay, so for me, yeah, you know, a particular interest, you know, I noted something that you said, which, you know, I'm just trying to marry it with what Mr. Sheson said, and luckily he's still online. He mentioned in the board composition to avoid consultants, and I saw the way you used your consultants. You just used them as a consultant to leverage on their expertise in putting together one or two things for your business, which is a very great one. And I hope that we're all noting that. But of primary importance to me is the funding issue, and funding in terms of how did you manage the expense with your board members? How did you do that?
Okay, we started off with five members. So myself and my husband, we're already directors, and 3 other people. Then we got the company secretary. Company secretary is also very key, because when you have a company secretary with vast experience, you know, they're able to hold your hands, you know, lead you on. So the first thing I did was negotiate the company secretary's price. That one is not negotiable. They are doing the work, so they have to get paid. The other people have to be people that are going to be patient, in my opinion. So I know a lot of people, initially, you know, some people will tell you, oh, your directors have to have shares in your business. From my experience, that is not exactly true. So not necessarily. So what we ended up doing was we agreed the sitting allowance, which was like about 100,000 naira per director. We were supposed to have quarterly meetings, although in recent times I've missed, we had to defer the meeting. And so and then they had like annual director's fee, which is about maybe 2 million naira per director. But with the directors I have, they are not very fussed about this money. Like, I know that even if I'm going to have to owe them for a bit, you know, there are people that are more vested in your vision and your progress. Like that money, I'm sure that money is not the reason why they're on your board, because they're bigger than that amount. But you know, you have to realize that once you start making the money and the book starts reading in like the positives, you should honor your commitment to them.
And do the needful, yes.
Get people who are willing to be patient and, you know, go through the process and the long haul. And I can remember the first meeting that we had, you know, from where I was coming from. When they're having a board meeting, there's always a lot of food, and there's you know, it's always like really getting prepared, making sure that, you know, the directors. So I think I had the menu from like a restaurant that's, oh, you place their order and it will be in before we finish the meeting and everything. I got like tea sets, you know, just made everything like really posh and fancy. And all of them warned me that I should never do that again. That all they need is water and tea. That the cost of running the board shouldn't be like a big chore that will now be spending so much money on refreshments. No, I should just give it to biscuits and tea and water and things like that. So if they must have anything, I should limit it to that. So you have to have, you know, those kind of people that what they have come to do is not largesse. They are just here to help you build your business, help you grow your business, you know. So that has been my experience. And right now the board is advising, because we now had to have some committees like general purpose finance and general purpose committee, risk management, you know, all of that. You know, that is not cast in stone for every business. So it depends on your sector and regulatory issues. And, you know, over time, like one of the speakers already said, you would find that there's a need to change like maybe some directors on your board, maybe someone is not able to dedicate enough time to attend the meetings and solving your issues. You have to just sit with them and say,
celebrity directors.
One of the directors, one of these, no, it doesn't even have to be the celebrity director. It was not even the celebrity director that found it difficult to meet up with the commitment. And he called me aside and said, Yemi, unfortunately, I thought I would be able to, you know, commit more time, but it's looking like I can't, you know, I apologize. Yeah, so he wrote us, and then we had to get someone to replace him and things like that. So that will come up once in a while, but, you know, no hard feelings. We still know that, oh, he would still help me, you know, informally, but on the board, he took his step down to
Yeah, thank you very much. So because we have to wrap up very soon, on a scale of 1 to 10, can you say that having a board has contributed to the growth of your business on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yes, definitely. Where would I score? Maybe 7.5, 7.5. And I would say that the growth, the remaining 2.5 is largely dependent on my own non-performance and nothing to do with the board, because to get the board to work properly, it takes a lot of dedication and commitment from even the management itself, and that's like me. So I have to dedicate the time. It's a process, and I feel like we would get better. There's a lot of room for improvement, and what I would say, since we started, even the image of the business from the outside, from financiers, everything has changed. Everything has changed.
Okay, so it's safe to say that having a board can actually affect your branding and how people perceive your business.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so very much. So from your everything that you said, my key takeaway is to articulate. It's important to articulate your vision and communicate it adequately to your potential directors, because this is able to ensure that you get more value from them, rather than just having the largest, in your words, the largest directors. Somebody put it here in the chat box, have directors that are not there for the largest, which is something that I think we should all take away. Of great importance to me is the culture of an organization. Are you still there? Can you say that your board impacted the culture of your organization in any way? Because we all know that culture with respect to ensuring that regulatory compliance are met within the timelines, and all of those things, penalties affect the sustainability of your business and ability for you to remain a going concern. Can you say that your board impacted that in any way? And might I say that participants are encouraged to put in their questions in the Q&A box, which will be handled by Ms. Victoria going forward. Mr. Sheson, if you're still on the line, if you're still on the call, I would like your insights on the issue of culture. I know you mentioned that look for a culture fit people. So assuming that even as an organization, your own culture is where the issue is, how can having a board, really, really set you in the line, on the right track to ensure that you have the right work ethics within your organization, you have, and whatever it is that culture regulates within an organization. Over to you, sir.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Now, culture is very important to the success of any endeavor, especially a business organization. And therefore, it should be part of your strategy, of your people strategy, right? So as a startup, you are essentially focused on, setting up the business, recruiting people who have the skills to help you deliver your objective. But after you've brought people, with disparate backgrounds and disparate, culture and all that into an organization, you then need to begin to work on the culture that helps you to deliver your objective. And therefore, management must come up with a culture strategy, which essentially says, okay, this is where we are, this is where we want to be, and these are the key pillars of a culture strategy. And then, as with all strategy, they will present it to the board, and the board will challenge and question and bring their insights and experience to bear on what you presented. And then when they sign off on that strategy, and then you go back and review it with all the inputs that you receive, you then start to implement it within the company. And as with all strategy, at suitable intervals in your journey, you go back to the board and say, you signed up on this strategy, in January, in December. This is, the progress that we have made in 6 months. These are the gaps that we're seeing. These are the, other areas that which we need to strengthen that strategy. So overall, and of course, because your board, your directors have been carefully selected, based on their experiences and background and skills and values. Those experiences and values would add color, shape the culture that you're trying to put in place. So that's really how, you know, your board can help you to evolve a culture. So think through the idea, involve them, get their input, and, you know, their experiences, their, you know, what view, the businesses in which they have operated will, you know, will all come together to help you fine-tune the strategy that you have thought about. So that's how I think they can influence your culture.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so very much. I don't know if we have any more questions. Victoria, over to you, please. Are you there? In the chat room, do we have any more questions?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm here. Okay, so some of the questions here have been answered, but we have one for Mrs. Yemi. One of the participants would like to know if you are on LinkedIn and that they would like to connect with you. So could you share maybe your email address or something, how people can connect with you?
My LinkedIn profile is Yemi Afaragun. I'm Yemi Afaragun everywhere actually. On all social media, Yemi Afaragun.
All right, thank you. Then we have yeah.
Mr. Shubowale, I think Mr. Shubowale has his contacts on there, so you all can feel free to connect with him at your leisure. Thank you. Please go ahead, Victoria.
Oh, no, other questions have been answered here. Other questions
so
they have
that brings us to the end of our very interesting discussion on the value proposition of having a functional board, you know, for startups. We can all see that it is very important, and very germane issues, considerations have been shared by our facilitators, from the importance of networking, being, you know, at the right place at the right time, you know, of course, studying your market, studying your, like Mr. Afaragun said, she actually had to align herself, you know, by being at the right place at the right time. Where would she meet her potential customers, her potential directors, people with like minds, and then people that had, you know, value, you know, to offer. And of course, the criteria for your board composition, Mr. Shubowale delved, you know, in depth into that. I believe that the materials will be shared with us all to, you know, to look at it. And then, of course, fine-tune the strategies for our startups in terms of ensuring that we have a board that provides oversight function for each and every one of us. Because at the end of the day, everybody needs regulation. Nobody knows everything. You are not perfect in yourself. But of course, the collective knowledge, experiences of others around us, you know, they go a long way in shaping and enabling us to, you know, to fulfill our core objectives, you know, both individually and as corporations. So thank you all very much for joining us and being with us. I'll now call on Mr. Sunday Adenipeku for the closing remarks. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you so very much, Madam Chair, for the opportunity given to me. Let me first and foremost seize the opportunity to thank everyone on this program, all of us who are joining within and outside the country. We really appreciate you and thank you for your time. Let me appreciate the panelists on this program. I mean, this assembly is very unique and superlative, I must confess. If you see my notes, very full. I've gained so much. Mr. Shubowale, wow. This is my first time. I've been hearing your name. You know, I mean, I know you are a member, but this is my first time of direct engagement with you. You have performed so well. You know, the insight is so wonderful. Thank you so very much. I'd like to especially, again, thank my friend, you know, who has really had a lot of insights to the discussion. And of course, I'm talking about Mr. Yokunle Ayoko, who, of course, I mean, We have always been on many programs together, and we cannot have more of him. I mean, it's just too wonderful. I'd like to really thank Mrs. Yemi Afari-Ogun. This is a practical approach to it all. As a matter of fact, it's the icing on the cake. She brought it to real life so that all of us can know that, look, this thing is not just ideal or idealistic, perspectives that are being propagated. They are things that can really made to be happen. And I want to encourage as many of us who are on the program who are working on one project or the other, startup, company, firms. I must tell you that, yes, there will be challenges, but from what we have learned today, these challenges are there to really make us have a good story in the final analysis if we will not give up and putting the right structure in place. So I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all my colleagues in the house, the chair, the PRO, the vice chair of YDF. This will not be completed if I don't seize the opportunity to invite as many who are on this call who are not yet members of one. You are not a member of IOD, I mean Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria, and you are not a member of the Young Directors Forum. I mean, I want to especially invite you to become a member of the Young Directors Forum of the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria. This comes with a lot of advantages. As a matter of fact, the forum was put in place a few years ago because of the obvious statistics that show that many, like more than 60% of young businesses, SMEs, startups die within their 5 years of existence because of corporate governance issues, either because they don't even think it's necessary to put any structure in place, or they have their fears. Like Mr. Shobowale said, I mean, you can do certain things out of fears. Okay, let me just put a few people in place. I'm afraid if I don't do it, maybe this may happen. It has to be intentional. It has to, so a lot of businesses, the mortality rate is staggering because the normal thing is not done, either ignorantly or cautiously or out of fear. So the reason why IOD put this in place is to actually allay all these fears and to ensure that young businesses prosper in our own climb here. And what that means is that the forum, the Young Directors Forum, is a network of young and talented upcoming board leaders, okay, who serve either as owner managers, startup, professionals, executive, non-executive directors of small businesses, and even big ones, across sectors. So it is an assemblage of, knowledge seekers who are ready to turn the narrative around in our business space. And so it's a good thing to belong to such a forum. And the Institute treats this forum as its own CSR, to the economy. And what are the advantages that you stand, to benefit from when you become a member of this forum? In the first place, you stand to gain that credibility that is very, very necessary. I mean, virtually all the speakers have spoken along that line. The goodwill. I mean, people, when you say, oh, I belong to the Institute of Directors, YDF, that alone gives you some open doors. Apart from the fact that you now have access a wide network access to diverse professionals who are on top of their games in the corporate governance space. And many of them have served on several boards. As a matter of fact, becoming a member of YDF, makes you, avails you the opportunity of mingling and relating and interacting with them without any hair. Okay, so you can extend your network at probably no cost to you. You have access to those who are, like Mr. Shobowale said, those who are over committed, and those who are not even that's really committed, maybe moderately committed. They are open. Even those who are over committed, they are being assigned to be mentors. Okay, they can't serve on your board, they can mentor you, they can be a coach, unto you. These are some of the avenues that the Institute helps, young businesses and young directors. And as a matter of fact, becoming a member predisposes you to advisory, opportunities that comes to you at no cost. Okay, technical and non-technical. I mean, from there you can know. You can just structure your time and schedule a time, with them in the secretariat. If you have, you want to know a bit about maybe how you can structure your board or your management and all that, they can give you that at no cost. And these are not the people that will be looking for sitting allowances. Like Mrs. Avari Ogun said, they have already made it. I mean, if we are talking of making it in the sense of professional world, they have made it. They have made the name, they have made the money. So it's not the small, this thing. They are looking for avenue to even contribute to the society. Okay, so you have that opportunity when you join YDF. Okay, that is Young Directors Forum of the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria. And I must say that in addition, you have the opportunity of being groomed and being grown to become a chartered director ultimately. You see, from YDF, you are integrated, you are transited to the core membership of the, or you will eventually become a full member of CIoD. Then from there, you can become chartered director, which makes you, marketable all over the world. And so that is just but a few of the advantages that, apart from the fact that you can network with other SMEs, other startups, you can exchange ideas, you can bounce experiences and all that. You can learn from one another, you can pick one another's brain. Like what Mrs. Afari Ogun shared with us today. It's only within this kind of platform that you can have it. Okay, so I want you to consider it. If you are not yet a member of YDF, please consider picking the form today. It doesn't cost arms and legs. It doesn't cost you arms and legs. I mean, with just 20,000 naira, you become a member. Then you can undergo the necessary courses and all that, and that is just it. So please, it's an opportunity. If you want to, and you are not yet, you can drop your name on the chat box and your phone number. I can assure you that somebody will get in touch with you before the end of the day and kind of handhold you to how to go about it. So I'd like to see this opportunity to thank all of you once again for this very highly robust and very rich engagement that we have had today. Of course, it's not the end of learning. We continue to learn. I mean, I have learned a lot, and I want to even learn more. And I must say that as many, even no matter irrespective of where you are working, you will still end up coming to floating one business or the other. So there is need for you to learn from a session like this. So I want to thank the executives of the Young Directors Forum of the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria for putting this together. I want to thank them for making this opportunity available to more and more people. And I believe that this is just the beginning of greater things that we're going to learn. Of course, this is a program that comes up quarterly, and I'm sure all the resources will be shared with everyone of this program. And we look forward to meeting you on some other programs. Thank you so very much. Enjoy the rest of the day. God bless.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very informative presentation on the CIoD and the YDF. Thank you. And thank you to the Council for the opportunity to serve. We are very appreciative. And thank you for all the trajectory, the growth trajectory that the CIoD has grown over the years. We can say that the foremost institution with respect to corporate governance, building, the essence and building capacities, of directors. And we are grateful to have that opportunity and leverage all that you have done. So thank you all for coming, and I would leave you in the safe hands of our Vice Chair, Mr. Ayo Ayo. Take us out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Honestly, I stand just listening to you and listening to Mr. Sunday Adenikpekun. I stand the risk of just really repeating all the thanks and appreciation of everyone for just really joining us today in this fantastic program. Nonetheless, I think you can never thank people enough. So permit me to start by just really saying a big thank you to all our speakers, our panelists, for the incredible wealth of wisdom and knowledge, their expertise, just leaving us with a bucket of nuggets, to run with, to just really go and make the difference in our various businesses. I want to thank Mr. Sheson Shubowale, Mrs. Afari Ogun, and Mr. Ayoko Ayokunle. Thank you so much. I want to thank Madam Chair, for your leadership. Let me not forget that. And just the executive of YDF, for just really pushing us forward. I want to thank the organizing committee, the people who put together this program, the secretariat, for all their support, for the DG, for even Mr. Adenikpekun, just really joining us here. I also want to thank the president and the chairman of council and his team that were here earlier on, Alhaji Tijani Borodo, for his constant support and just guiding us through. I think we have sponsors. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank all members of CIoD, members of YDF, our guests, for everybody that has joined us. I just want to urge you all, to heed to the advice, that Mr. Adenikpekun had given, and the speakers as well, just really urging all of us. If you haven't yet joined the Chartered Institute of Directors or the Young Directors Forum, my question is, what are you waiting for? There's really a lot. I mean, just sitting down, listening to this panelist, I mean, I can sum it up to like 50 years or so years of experience just in 2 hours. I know that if we allow them, they could have gone on and on and on. But this is part of the things, part of the benefits that we as members of YDF have been enjoying and will continue to enjoy. Thank you so much for the last 2 hours of your time. I trust that it has been worth your time, and I trust that you have learned a lot. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye. Back to you, Victoria.
Thank you so much, Mr. VC. Thank you, Madam Chair, for spearheading this amazing event. Thank you to the Chartered Institute of Directors, our supportive president and chairman, every member of council, the governing council, everyone. And thank you most especially for all of you for being here today. And this is where we call it a wrap. Please don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms. Let's continue the conversation. We have received your email addresses for everyone who would like to join the Young Directors Forum, and we'll get in touch with you today. For those who haven't reached out to us with email addresses or you're still on the fence, this is the time to take the leap. And I am so certain that you would have lots of benefits after today's meeting. So thank you and have an amazing rest of the day. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.